welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Happy Sunday. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of May 26th through June the 2nd. And obviously the big news is Jupiter is entering into the sign of Gemini. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click that bell button below if you want to be alerted as to when we have new videos coming out on the channel. Here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, using both Western astrology as well as tarot to better understand what's going on in the cosmos. Lots of stuff going on this week, guys. We have a jam-packed episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking all about Jupiter's ingress into the sign of Gemini. If you guys stay tuned to the end of the video, I will take it through the 12 rising signs and talk about where Jupiter is going to be benefiting and blessing you. But I also talk about this in the June 2024 horoscopes. It's now live on the channel, over 4 hours of horoscopes for all of the 12 rising signs, sun and moon signs, very in-depth to the most important transits personally for you in June. So make sure you guys check that out. Well, Jupiter entering Gemini, right? This is a once in a 12-year transit. Jupiter spends about 1 year in each sign, and now it's moving to the mutable air sign ruled by Mercury. Gemini is all about curiosity and education, connection, options, gadgets, choices, words, communication, and ideas. So Jupiter will be magnifying these topics for the next year in this particular sign. Now, something you guys want to think about, okay, there's some pros and cons to this transit. I want to start off with the pros because honestly, if you have a Gemini sun, moon, rising, or personal planet, maybe your own natal Jupiter is in Gemini or your North Node is in Gemini, this is good news for you all year long because it's going to be bringing you positive things. Jupiter has connections traditionally both with Sagittarius as well as Pisces. So it is in its opposite sign, but we will see a magnification of traveling, education, philosophy, because these are the things that Jupiter rules. Now, something else that kind of came to mind for me recently that I was thinking about also is back in 2021 and 2022, we saw the North Node was in Gemini, the South Node was in Sagittarius, and we were having eclipses in those signs. So you're going to want to think about what was going on in your life during that period, because this Jupiter transit, I think, is going to amplify and expand on some of the new directions you were going with your mind, right? Mercury kind of Gemini connection, what you were talking about, what media you were watching, what you were learning, what you were reading. And you're going to see that it has a direct connection and correlation to when the nodes were in the sign of Gemini and Sagittarius from 2021 to 2022. I know time is like flying. It seems like things are all just kind of like meshing together at this point over the last 4 years. But definitely go back and look at those sequence of eclipses and other times that were kind of being highlighted those years in the months of May, June, and November and December. Think back to that time, and if something has slowed down that was initiated during those eclipses, or maybe it stopped or there was some delay, you may see like a resurgence of some of those themes. So definitely take a look at what house Gemini is in your natal chart. Pull out your chart on your apps or on your phone or on your software. Take a look at it and see what happened during that time. That particular house, okay, is going to give you the theme of what area of your life is going to be magnified. It's going to be different for each of the 12 rising signs. And just as another kind of time point to be thinking about, the last time we had Jupiter in Gemini was back in 2012 through 2013. So there was something that was kind of being brought to you. It was new. It could have been beneficial. There could have been some kind of growth period that required you to communicate, travel, learn in some new way. Now, something to consider while, Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini is Mercury will be the dispositor throughout this transit. That basically means because Mercury traditionally rules Gemini, even though we're going to see Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, Mercury is somehow adding a little bit more flavor in this year, which means we want to pay extra special attention to like when Mercury changes signs, which we're going to have here pretty soon. As well as, when we see Mercury retrograde periods, that is going to have a direct connection to whatever Jupiter is affecting in our lives. So we're going to see a Mercury retrograde that's not going to be happening until the beginning of August. That one will actually begin in the sign of Virgo, so it'll be in its home sign, retrograding back into Leo. Likely, I'm going to have a video on that for you guys as we get kind of into the summer. But that will be bringing up some pretty noticeable effects relating to Gemini themes. And then again, we will see this in the end of the year. The second half of November, we will see a Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. Little mutual reception there, right? Jupiter in Mercurial sign, Mercury in Sagittarius, a Jupiterian sign. And they're going to oppose each other and square Saturn. So I guess like the mutable months this year into next year are going to be times where we're going to be experiencing change. The mutable signs, right? Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, they all represent when the seasons are changing. They rule over things like intellect, information, curiosity, health, traveling, philosophy. And we're going to kind of see them ricocheting off of each other during these particular time periods of the mutable months. Anyway, Jupiter being in the sign of Gemini, some things that you guys just want to watch for, because it's going to be highlighting these themes in all of our lives collectively for the next 12 months. Probably number one is intellectual expansion. We're definitely going to see that as a theme because Jupiter in Gemini is going to be encouraging a thirst for knowledge and expansion when it comes to our intellectual horizons. Great time for learning, exploring new ideas, and engaging in stimulating conversations. Maybe there's a new hobby that you want to learn about, right? Pick up a book or go and follow a podcast that's going to teach you how to do it. That's my recommendation. If you're wanting to learn a new language, right? Mercury is connected to Gemini, so Jupiter being there is a wonderful time to be learning new languages. Applications and new softwares for translation can be really helpful here as well. But it's a really good time just to be curious and expanding your mind, because that's really what Jupiter wants to do. This can also increase our ability to connect on a global scale, communicate and be able to share and relay information at record speeds, because we are going to see one of the first big aspects with Jupiter's ingress is a trine to Pluto in Aquarius, connecting us when it comes to technology, connecting us when it comes to the collective and the future. Increased communication, so obviously that's kind of like building off of this because the transit leads to more social interactions. Jupiter is moving through an air sign. So there is a desire to share your thoughts and ideas with other people. It's a great time to express yourself and connect with others. I really feel like Jupiter is like the comedian of all of the planets. He does rule over things that are funny and comedy. So it can definitely mean that we're needing to kind of keep our sense of humor. We're needing to kind of, be witty and charming and funny, especially when it comes to relaying and sharing information to other people. And it's going to help keep things a little bit more lighthearted. Now, Jupiter does have connections to travel, traditionally air travel, international travel, going places globally. Well, Gemini rules things like vehicles in our neighborhood and kind of getting around town locally, and bikes and walking and driving. So we do see expansion and changes with travel when Jupiter goes through this sign, as well as exploration. So we can feel that there is this desire to travel and explore more with Jupiter in this sign. It's a great time to explore new places, meet new people, and experience new cultures. Likely this is about getting to know our local environment. So it's less about getting on a plane and like going to Argentina. Although for some of you guys who are having this transit, maybe in your ninth house, maybe that's not the case. But it's going to be about being like, okay, how can I get to know my local community? How can I learn more about what's going on within the local school systems? How can I become a little bit more familiar with, driving around town, learning new ways to get places, new routes? This can also really amplify our relationship with our neighbors, our siblings, close friends and family who are going to kind of reside near us. And it can be a time where we are having to rely more on what's going on locally rather than what's going on a, like national or international level. I do think people are going to be more consumed with making change and creating change in their local communities and seeing that being a ripple effect to what's going on out in the world. When we start focusing more on our little bubbles and what we can change within our local communities, we can see that have a very positive domino effect. We can also find that this can really challenge some of the themes that's going on globally with global governance as we focus more on what we can actually affect positively. Jupiter is a positive planet within our own local neighborhoods. Jupiter always brings opportunities for growth. Yes, Jupiter is going to behave better in certain signs, and so there can be some challenges having Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. But I do feel like because Jupiter is known for luck and expansion, in this sign, it's going to bring opportunities for growth in areas relating to the mind, communication. It's also going to be about career, education, personal development. I think we're going to see a lot of people really focus on reading and writing skills, public speaking skills. People are definitely going to see this as an opportunity to grow intellectually, possibly looking at getting new degrees or certifications. New technical training can also come from this transit as well. What I love about Gemini is that because they're a mutable sign ruled by Mercury, they're very adaptable, they're flexible. They have the ability to see two sides of a situation, and they can pivot probably better than most other signs, to be honest with you. So because they're known to be very adaptable and flexible, this Jupiter transit is enhancing these qualities, making it easier to navigate changes and challenges. A lot of these challenges are going to be revolving around Gemini things like changing our vehicle, changing our computers, our phones, our mind, and also the way that we communicate with people. So keep an open mind is like the best advice I could give you guys with Jupiter in Gemini. I think it's going to bring some really interesting point of views, and they may be very polar to mainstream narrative. They may be very out of the box and different than what we've always been told, or maybe what we learned, or what our teachers taught us, or what we learned in college. And there can be lots of opportunities to be almost like re-educating and reworking something about the way that we think and how we communicate. I'm hoping it's bringing opportunity for people to have sit-down discussions, conversations, and debates and learn from one another. I guess finally, watch for increased curiosity. Certainly Gemini is a sign that can be a little mischievous, but that's why we love them. They're curious, they ask questions, they weigh out options. So this transit can definitely increase our curiosity and our desire to learn and also see the other side of a perspective. So it's a great time to explore new options, new hobbies, new interests, new subjects, and ask yourself, why? Why does this work this way? Why did this happen? What is the purpose? What is the point? Jupiter has this connection to the higher mind, our relationship sometimes to what we believe in. It can be connected to religion, it can be connected to faith. So certainly I think there is this sense of us asking ourselves, why do we believe what we believe? Where did that come from? You know, what is the source on that information? And it's going to bring up lots of interesting conversations along the way. Now, the other side of this, right, in true Gemini fashion, we've talked about the positive things that can come from this transit, but there is some challenges to Jupiter being in the sign of Gemini. Because Jupiter is traditionally associated with Pisces as well as Sagittarius, technically it's moving through a sign that is polar opposite of its ruling sign, Sag. It will also find itself in a square to planets in Pisces throughout this transit in the next year, which is kind of tricky. Once again, watch for that really getting lit up, especially during Virgo season, as we're seeing August make way into September, and Sagittarius season when November is moving into December, when there are going to be some grand old mutable squares. People are going to be like, what the heck is going on? What can I believe in? But Jupiter reminds us that we have to communicate, get to the bottom of things, and get the information, the facts, the figures, the data, and learn how to discuss. Well, why is Jupiter in detriment in the sign of Gemini? Because it's opposition to Sagittarius. So when we think about this, this is going to create some challenges revolving around the strength in which Jupiter is able to operate in this particular sign. So the concept of planets being in detriment is based on the idea that a planet's energy is not well suited to the qualities of the sign that it's in. So in this case, Jupiter represents expansion, growth, optimism, while Gemini is associated with communication, versatility, and being, adaptable. So Jupiter's expansive and broad-minded nature can sometimes feel like at odds with Gemini's quick and changeable energy. However, it is important to note that the planet being in detriment doesn't necessarily mean that it's negative or unfavorable. Instead, it may indicate that the energy of the planet is less straightforward and requires a little bit more effort to express itself in that particular sign. So as Jupiter goes through Gemini, you might experience a more intellectual and curious kind of nature, and that may be what's helping you grow. You may not see it in the same way you would see it with Sagittarius, which is really kind of feisty and fiery and dynamic. But we're going to grow, we're going to learn, we're going to expand based off of conversations, what we're reading, and what information we are consuming. So like I said, we will see some of these squares intermittently throughout this next year, but there are going to be peak periods. And I want to let you guys know, this is why it's such a good idea to listen to the June horoscopes for 2024. I basically lay it out for the 12 signs and I'm like, these are the days that you're going to see trines to Pluto where there's going to be growth and opportunity for transformation and change, especially when it comes to the future. Then we're going to see some challenging or salty aspects as we see planets in Gemini in the month of June come into squares with both Saturn and Neptune. I feel like this is an important month to watch. Now, we're not into these transits yet, but some of us are already feeling it. We're going to see, inner planets like the Sun and Venus and Mercury move through the sign of Gemini. So it's highlighting Gemini themes out in the world. And then we are going to see them square off with Saturn and Neptune. So pay close attention to what happens with these particular transits next month. I do feel like it may mirror some of the themes of what we're going to see all year long. Specifically, probably the two biggest aspects that we're going to see taking place this year with this Jupiter transit is the first aspect, which is the trine to Pluto, which is powerful, where knowledge is really powerful, where there's lots of growth and opportunity for change. And then when we see Jupiter move into a square with Saturn in Pisces. Jupiter traditionally rules Pisces. So we're going to see like extra kind of like Jupiter, Saturn type themes where Saturn is going to be in the superior position. Jupiter will be opening from the opening square. So think of it as like Saturn throwing like a lasso, an invisible lasso, right? Pisces onto Jupiter and kind of pulling him in and not letting him go too far, not letting him talk too much, not letting him publish too much, not letting him communicate too much, travel too much. And we're going to really see some friction between this particular square, especially in the months of August and December. For me, I think I mentioned this in a previous video that I saw this as kind of like, some of the biggest blessings will actually be unanswered prayers, right? Jupiter is blessings. Saturn in Pisces is about where we're like praying to something bigger or better or even holier than ourselves. And we're feeling like they're not being answered. We're asking for something and asking for something that ultimately may not show up. And it may be a blessing that we don't get some of those things that we've been asking for. And we'll find out why later down the road. Now, eventually that Saturn-Jupiter square will continue actually in 2025 as we see Jupiter move into its exaltation in the sign of Cancer and square off with Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So think of like the Saturn-Neptune, squares to Jupiter that we'll see in the mutable signs between Pisces and Gemini as a change in the narrative, a change in how we communicate, information issues, relating issues, connection issues, and then boom, we're going to see another big initiatory kind of change that's going to happen next year. For me, I think like few things in life are good and bad, right? Good and bad is all relative. That's how I try to look at things, especially using astrology, because we can kind of forecast into the future and see what's coming. We could look at a bad transit and say, well, it's going to be terrible. And like, what are we going to do? And this is, going to be the end of the world. Or we could say, well, this energy is going to present itself. How can I be aware? How can I be prepared to navigate that time and also understand what that transit is teaching us? So a few things in life are good and bad. And, I think that philosophy really kind of comes through when we're looking at Jupiter entering into its detriment in the sign of Gemini and then squaring Saturn in Pisces. It'll basically be an expansion that is pertaining to the Gemini area of your chart. Okay, look at your chart. That area is expanding. Then we are going to see, because it's within the mutable axis of, also Saturn and Neptune, it will receive a square from Saturn. So that means you'll expand in Gemini, but it's going to come at a cost. And that cost could be delays, setbacks, challenges, limitations. It could be issues with faith. It could be isolation. It could be separation. dissolving of things that are going on a global level, right? Pisces is what's going on with the collective, everyone. And I think that Jupiter and Gemini is kind of like, you know what? Some people look at things right now and they go, well, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. You can have that perspective, or you could say, that's not my reality. I'm choosing not to, see that reality. I'm choosing to focus on creating positivity in the everyday and how I think, how I communicate, what I'm sharing. I'm going to wave at my neighbors. I'm going to say hi to people in the elevator. I'm going to change the narrative that we can't connect, we can't communicate, and we're going to actually mend fences. We don't have to accept this global doom and gloom kind of philosophy that we're all screwed. At least that's how I'm trying to see it. Like I said, Saturn's going to limit, Jupiter's going to expand. So best believe we're going to be feeling that during those 2 months this year. Now here's the other kind of like laundry list of the challenges that can come with Jupiter and Gemini. And I feel like this video is going to be a perfect example of that. Too many words, right? Too many words, word overload, word vomiting, thoughts and words conflicting, right? That's an interesting concept, especially because so much of, Sagittarius's energy is about our beliefs or our philosophy. Certainly Pisces can be about our religion, our connection to a higher power. And I think the question is like, are we walking the walk and talking the talk? The things that we're saying, do we really believe in them? Are we really exercising them? Are we teaching them to other people? And where can we see that there may be some challenges, maybe from, dual experiences, spreading ourselves too thin mentally, a very kind of like, ADD type of energy. Gemini is known for being able to multitask. Gemini is also about information and what we have at the palm of our hand. That square to Saturn is going to create such a overblow, I think, with just story after story after story in the news. And people getting overwhelmed and being like, I can't keep up with what's going on in the world. There's too many things happening at once, or it's going to lead to more doom scrolling on the internet. And certainly a lack of attention span. I think that's going to be a real issue as well. I'm hopeful that Jupiter going into Gemini is going to really put a huge emphasis on early education, really helping, public schools, private schools, any educational, centers really focus on better reading and writing skills. I think we're going to hopefully see some kind of expansion where, people are saying, hey, we want to be really focusing on getting these test scores up. We want to see kids be able to read, write, speak, communicate better than they did pre-pandemic. What can we do to bring in better educators, right? Jupiter can be teachers. That square to Saturn does say that there may be limits. The government, we might see issues with governments not wanting that, not wanting to fund some of these programs or some of these things. But where there is a will, there is a way. And I think that Jupiter trine Pluto is going to be opening the door for collective moves to focus on how we can be creating new forms of education, how we can be funding that. It may be, crowdfunding. We might see that there are groups that are coming together where we have homeschool pods and other things where we're bringing more than one person together in an educational environment, and we're actually teaching them how to read, write, and speak again. So I don't know, I'm hopeful. I think that square to Saturn is probably going to be one of the most challenging aspects because we'll see it at least twice in the mutable signs. Saturn being in Pisces with that square to Jupiter is reality testing, right? It's truth clearing. It is also proclamation, sobering decisions, surrender, harsh statements, brutal ramifications, and also being in too deep. So be mindful that we can say some things, share some things, proclaim some things that may not be factual. We may not be able to actually, show up in that way. We may realize the harsh reality of the world and that our actions, our words have consequences. Yes, this is very true, but quite literally, Gemini is going to be writers, podcasters, bloggers, YouTubers, radio hosts, TV hosts, people who are on any form of media, and that square to Saturn is going to basically be where they are walking a tightrope and finding that it's very challenging to navigate new restrictions when it comes to communication and information, what they can and cannot say. So we're going to see more issues pertaining to like surveillance and limitation of freedom of speech, and also just that I guess ability to express yourself in a free form just get more so and more so narrow. And that's the kind of challenging aspect of it. Now, something else that we're going to be seeing this week is that, like I said, right off the bat, we're going to see Jupiter trine Pluto, which I'm excited for this energy. I think it's actually really positive. I do feel like it does create some real viral moments, right? Well, let's not underestimate Pluto here. Pluto is like the big bad wolf in astrology. So Pluto does represent, major change, endings, transformations, tower moments, death and rebirth. It's currently retrograde in Aquarius. It is heading back into Capricorn in just a few months. And really with Jupiter trine Pluto in astrology, even though the trine is harmonious, right? It's free flowing. A trine is a Jupiter energy. It just magnifies everything. And it's a harmonious aspect between two planets. Jupiter makes things bigger and Pluto wants to totally change the game. It wants to end something. It wants something to die off. It wants something to be, completely reborn and reworked in some way. So you're going to see these two planets work together. So this aspect talks about having the potential to grow and expand your influence and power over your life, which is good. It wants to help you do it in a positive manner. So I think this is really helping all of us kind of look at things in a much more positive, optimistic perspective. That's like, this is going to be scary, but this is necessary for my growth. This is going to be hard to completely, start over, but I'm optimistic that I can build something better than what I had before. I do think that you're going to see major themes that are going to come up where the power of your mind, right? Jupiter in Gemini is going to have a major positive effect on your ability to have success. Like it's mind over matter, baby. That's really what this is going to be about. It's going to also be a lot about issues that affect us collectively, because Pluto in Aquarius is about collective changes that are going on that affect many people. Power changes, right? Leadership changes. We can see that with this trine, especially connected to politics and religion. And so people who have connections to politics and religion can have a huge impact on the masses with the things they say, right? Gemini, what they're preaching, Jupiter, and how they're able to kind of connect to the masses, Aquarius. I do think that this is also about, really needing to take an intense dive to make significant transformation in your personal and social spheres. These are both air signs. So this is about communication, information, our connection to other people, whether that's in person or, online. Do not underestimate the power of your message throughout this transit towards, the end of May, the beginning of June. These are some very powerful transits as Jupiter and also Mercury are beginning to align and they're trining with Pluto. It's like chef's kiss if you want to make a big statement, if you have a launch, if you want to, put something you've written out into the world that you feel like could actually wake up the collective. It's like a time to really override any fear that you have and really throw your hat into the ring, intellectually speaking. We will also notice that energy levels may surge. This might grant us access to a reservoir of power that's typically out of reach. We might feel like mentally there's no limits. We can just stay up all night. We can write, we can talk. We're feeling almost like possessed with the idea of faith, philosophy, and our belief system, and we want to share that with other people. With Jupiter trine Pluto, you may also find yourself in a position where you can influence and lead other people. Now, this can be positive where you can inspire change. It's very revolutionary with that trine to Pluto in Aquarius. But it can get culty real quick, so just keep that in mind. There can be some people that have some really insane ideas and are wanting to kind of, stir the pot a little bit with their words or things that they're saying and putting themselves in a position of like trying to manipulate and control and have influence of other people. It's a double-edged sword, as with anything when you're dealing with Gemini energy. It offers the opportunity to uplift and improve communal conditions, but it also requires a mindful approach to avoid imposing your will on other people. The pursuit of material success should not overshadow the importance of ethical considerations and the well-being of those who you interact with. Okay, just some food for thought. This will be a very short but sweet transit. We will see the trine felt all week, okay? So as Jupiter's going into Gemini, we will see it'll be within a 2-degree orb. So make the most of it until really about the 4th or the 5th of June, and then we start to kind of lose that trine. As Jupiter retrogrades back later this year, around 19 degrees, it will not come back into a trine with Pluto. You get this one time. So that's why communication and learning and relaying information is so crucial, and there are some really great transits at the beginning of June. Something else, okay? I know we have such a busy, of course it would be the Jupiter in Gemini video that like I just have so much to share with you guys. Something else is that Mars is returning to that critical 19 degrees of Aries point. Why is this important? Think back to around April 7th, 8th, and 9th. We had a solar eclipse in Aries. It was at 19 degrees, especially if you have any planets, 17, 18, 19, 20 maybe degrees of Aries. You know that your life probably felt like it was on fire during that period, as we had a very intense solar eclipse factored in with a conjunction to Chiron, which was bringing up the need to heal something. Maybe we felt that we were kind of slighted, we were kind of pushed aside, maybe we were focusing on emotional healing, physical healing, spiritual healing, whatever. That solar eclipse was a doozy. Days later, we saw a cazimi around similar degrees where it was just really difficult, and I think people were feeling very frustrated and very combative. Well, Mars now in its home sign, its domicile in Aries, is coming to that 19 degrees this week. So when a planet transits a solar or a lunar eclipse, it's going to bring up some of the themes of that particular eclipse again. Guys, we've seen this with the Mercury retrograde. Mercury went back and forth over the eclipse degree. That's why April and May was so freaking gnarly. We have also seen that there has been conjunctions to Chiron, so it's been kind of extending that feeling of hurt and wounded communication, mental stress, you know, the list goes on. So now here we have Mars coming, and it's like initiating this conjunction to this solar eclipse degree. Well, you know, eclipses are often associated with significant change, endings, new beginnings in astrology, especially solar eclipses, and this was with an exalted sun in Aries. So it was a really potent new beginning for everyone on a personal level, and it's really reverberating off of that North Node in Aries, where we're healing the relationship to ourselves. If we're mad about where we're at in life or frustrated that we're not making any headway, really this has been an eclipse and a retrograde season that's about looking in the mirror and going, okay, rather than complaining or inflicting more pain on ourselves, what can we actually do to get to the root of the problem, heal it, and learn how to be stronger, more independent, more self-sufficient. So it doesn't matter what planet it is. Any planet that activates a eclipse degree is definitely going to be very significant, and it'll reactivate the energy of that eclipse, leading to developments or challenges in the areas of life represented by the house and planets involved in the original eclipse chart. Now, just a reminder, guys, when we had this solar eclipse in Aries, Mars was in Pisces. It was conjunct Saturn, all right? So we were like, what is this invisible wall that I am dealing with? Why can I not break through something? Frustrated, frustrated, frustrated. So there will be this feeling as Mars connects with the North Node that we're like, I'm getting out of my own way. You know, like, move over, here I come. These are the new things that I'm doing. So we're breaking through that invisible wall. So that's the good thing. The challenging thing is that shortly after the conjunction that we're going to see to this degree, Mars will then come into conjunction to Chiron this week. So Mars, right, the planet of passion and war and action and drive and desire, is reactivating the eclipse. So this is a good week to think about what happened in April. Where did I completely reorganize, rework, heal, or figure out my goals? And like, now I'm taking action, and I'm going to kind of push through things, even though it might be scary, even though it hurts, even though it's difficult, and finally get going with some stuff that we need to do. I really feel like it's going to have a huge influence on all of us collectively. I also feel like this is a very significant aspect because Mars is a more action-oriented, combative kind of sign. And it's all about, you know, being pioneering, and it's all about being independent. Yes, sometimes to do what's best for you, people aren't going to like you, right? You're going to see people who are going to kind of challenge you. They're going to fight you on it. You know, Chiron's theme with Chiron and Aries is where we feel wounded on a personal level and we feel excluded, where sometimes going at things alone is actually more difficult than, you know, trying to find our tribe or getting out there and meeting other people. Sometimes we have to walk the path alone, especially when it's very much connected to integrity. And that's going to be a big theme with Jupiter and Gemini. You're going to hear a lot of people preaching about things that they may not necessarily be practicing in their private lives, square to Saturn. And that actually can really highlight and really bring some truths out into the open about a lot of people who are in educational and religious, type positions where we find out they're not really who they say they were. Anyway, Mars conjoining with Chiron. So first of all, we have not seen this in some time, okay? Chiron, transits around any time, around 50 years or so. So with the North Node being in Aries and Mars being in Aries and Chiron being in Aries, it's just reverberating so much of the North Node in Aries themes, which is about also on a global level, right? Military, mobility with armed forces, what's going on with war, where we're having conflict, where there is this beating the war drum and talking about anything to do with weapons and intense pressure revolving around war and conflict. As we see Mars come into conjunction with Chiron, we're going to actually see that can create more problems, that can wound more people, that's hurting individuals on a much bigger level, especially because the North Node is involved and this is about the future and what is unknown. So there's a powerful fusion going on of multiple energies, but looking at Mars with Chiron, this conjunction I think can have a very profound effect on our individual healing journey, empowerment, personal empowerment, self-discovery, particularly in the areas of power and identity. Who am I? What do I stand for? What am I willing to fight for? What is best for me? What is my goal? Where am I going, right? And it's about action. Mars is about action. It's linear. So there are some other sides to this. I'll get into it when we get to that particular conjunction day. Expect that to last for a couple of days because it's going to conjunct 19 degrees, move to 22 degrees of Aries in conjunct Chiron, and then it's going to separate. So be careful with anything relating to your face, your head. We can notice more uptick with allergies, bigger issues with migraines, accidents, cuts, burns, abrasions, all that stuff that comes with, well, Mars. Okay. And last but certainly not the most least, okay, as I said to you guys, now that Jupiter is moving into Gemini this week, whatever's going on with Mercury, we want to pay attention. If Mercury is going to be conjunct another planet or square something, or if it's going to be retrograding, that is going to reflect with what's going on with Jupiter. Remember, Jupiter's in its detriment. So if we see a really uncomfortable aspect with Mercury, it will be kind of showing the darker side of the Jupiter in Gemini transit. A very unexpected Mercury conjunction to Uranus and Taurus. So, Mercury, the mind, communication systems, gadgets, transportation, business, health, will meet up with Uranus and Taurus. So when we see this conjunction, generally it has a pretty big impact on technology and innovation. It's a powerful planetary alignment that's associated with a time of increased mental activity. The pros is that we can see some opportunities for original thinking and a strong desire to change traditional ideas and norms. Out-of-the-box ideas, very bold, unconventional conversations, team meetings and exercises, and it's really bringing a lot of energy to the realm of communication and mental processes, representing a period of heightened intellect, original thinking, and a strong desire to change traditional ideas and norms. Great, right? However, Uranus is not comfortable being in the sign of Taurus. It does not want to be destabilized. It doesn't want to see disharmony and unpredictability with the earth. It doesn't want to see destabilizing things with the financial markets. So I do think that we can see some stuff that's going haywire pertaining to Taurus related things this week. Now the aspect, in my opinion, can lead to breakthroughs in technology. I'm going to double down on that because Jupiter is trining Pluto. So I think that we're going to see where we might see some stocks just go absolutely bananas. That's connected to like AI and communications and like new applications relating to language or travel. And I do think it's going to encourage like innovative and different thinking. It'll open the door to revolutionary or unconventional ideas, and it may also stimulate a dynamic intellectual environment where we're fostering, and I think especially with Venus kind of being around, Gemini pretty soon, fostering a love for intellectual exploration and a willingness to embrace change in the realm of thoughts and ideas. So it's interesting because we're going to see, Uranus, that conjunction to Mercury, unconventional ideas when it comes to money, when it comes to farming, when it comes to resources, when it comes to our values. But I also think that this can cause some issues with things like ATM machines, some issues pertaining to updates with new future, digital currencies or cryptocurrencies. And it is going to hit a degree that's a little fishy when it hits 24 degrees. All right, so we'll kind of go deeper as we go through the week ahead. First of all, if this is your first time watching me, okay, and you haven't seen this before, you're like, when does she get to Jupiter and, like Gemini? You'll see the timestamps below, so if you want to jump to that, you can. But this is Astro Weather, so what I do is I take you guys through the week ahead. We look at the next 7 days, and I kind of give you the forecast for each day, where the moon is, what the planets are doing. Super helpful if you're wanting to like plan appointments or meetings or travel or date night, whatever. I'm going to tell you what each day looks like, realistically, and what to expect. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start with Sunday, the 26th. So if you guys are watching me on Sunday and you're a part of my Sunday crew, how's your coffee or your tea? I know a lot of you guys always say we're a Sunday crew. So thank you guys for watching and supporting me. I appreciate your comments. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. We wake up this morning and the moon is in Capricorn. So we're doing all of that fun emotional labor. As you guys remember, I told you last week that when we get to Sunday, that we want to use Sunday as a day where we're productive, we have an outlet. If we don't, it can feel a little combative. So, the moon, when it goes through Capricorn, it's feeding off Saturn. We'll see a sextile there. For me, this is kind of like whatever you're working on, have a vision for what you're wanting to complete. Really work with the moon in a trine to Mercury today in Taurus, where you can get organized, you can food prep, you can shop, you can get all of your, documents and scheduling and everything confirmed, ready for the week ahead. That's how you want to use Sunday. I know a lot of you guys don't work on Sundays, but trust me on this, you're going to feel like it's a lot better than getting kind of hung up with the moon square, the North Node and Mars, where we get agitated. Bosses can call you today, or there can be work that you're having to scramble to get done and you're feeling like you're kind of under the gun, or you're feeling pressured to complete something, because that moon is going to activate a square to the North and South Node where karmic things happen. Moon in Capricorn does bring up things revolving around our long-term goals, our reputation, our career. And the emotional kind of side of the moon being in Capricorn is kind of like, oh, this is stuff I don't want to do, but I'm going to push myself to do it, and you guys might kind of feel like that all week with some of the Mars stuff anyway. When the moon squares Mars, it feels agitated. It does feel like with 2 cardinal planets squaring off that, there is what is expected of us, Capricorn, our responsibility for work, home, family, or our parents, our reputation, versus what we would rather be doing. And Mars in Aries is like, I would rather be doing my own thing. I don't want to be bothered on a Sunday. Why is my boss emailing me? We can get a little agitated because of that. So just know that it's out in the ethers today. If you work with the moon trine Mercury and you communicate, you problem solve, you are productive in some way, it's a great way to move out of that. So get some work done, prep something for the week ahead. Now today, Mars is at that 19 degrees. It's actually been there since yesterday, so maybe you guys have been feeling that Mars reactivation point. But like I said, watch out. It is the same degree as the eclipse. Equally, later in the week, when we see the moon go into Aries, you're going to see another activation where the moon is going to be hitting Mars and Chiron as well. These are the days that you guys really want to be watching for, where you may see some of the flare-ups connected to the solar eclipse in Aries. That solar eclipse lasted for nearly 4 minutes, y'all. It was visible all through the United States, parts of Mexico, and into parts of Canada. Some astrologers have speculated that I've spoken to that are like, it'll take 4 years for this to play out. We're going to see stuff going on in South America, then things going on in the United States for 2 years, and then into Canada. We don't know. That's based off of different astrological kind of beliefs and practices, but I will tell you that this is an eclipse that's going to last for a long time because of the length, but also because we're going to see Saturn and Neptune go into Aries next year. They both won't fully be staying in Aries until 2026, but like Saturn's going to go over these degrees. Chiron's going to hover around these degrees. So this is only one of what will be several reactivations pertaining to this particular eclipse. For me personally, it's been like, what's a pain for me, something that keeps kind of coming up over and over again about, the Aries part of my chart. Mars being there is aggravating things. Chiron is bringing up some kind of issues and kind of wounding. And you may feel in your own life that you're like, there is just this thing that's been bothering me for 2 months. And like, now I'm finally going to do something, or now I'm going to finally blow up, or I'm cutting this off, or I'm finally going to kind of like fight back in some way. And so, you know, there is a need to acknowledge where this pressure is and where this hurt is and what's, you know, needs to be kind of like dealt with. And I think Mars is going to really kind of push you potentially into action with that this week. So as we continue to go through Sunday, we'll see the moon keep moving through Capricorn. It is going to pick up that trine to Mercury in the afternoon. And it'll come out of the square with the North and South node and trine Mercury. So it's like, if you're frustrated, communicate. When in doubt, communicate. We are also going to see that Jupiter is now in Gemini. Okay, so Jupiter is officially in Gemini. Those of you guys who have planets in Gemini, like the first 5 degrees or so, you're really feeling the effects of this, because Jupiter is coming in a conjunction with those degrees, Sun, Moon, Rising, or personal planet. Venus is nearby, still makes things feel extra sweet, and the Sun is highlighting that all in a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. So the early degree Geminis, how are you guys feeling with this energy? How does it feel for y'all? I'd love to hear. All right, so that moon's going to keep going through the sign of Capricorn. It looks like it's going to pick up a square to Mars and Chiron. Okay, hear me on this. Tonight. So if there's going to be something going down, if there's going to be some friction, it's going to be this evening when the moon snags a square to Mars, where there can be some friction and some combativeness, and then it squares Chiron, and there can be some wounding relating to that. Moon's going to keep moving, and looks like overnight we'll pick up a trine to Uranus, and that's going to lead us into Monday the 27th. Well, in the morning, and I say this, and I should say this because I've noticed this in the comments recently, I'm on Central Time, so I kind of look at it from the perspective of what's going on, you know, at least within the United States and this part of like the Northern Hemisphere. Some of you guys who are in Europe or UK or Australia or other places in Asia, you guys are going to be ahead. Somebody asked me that recently. So if you're hearing like, oh, it's the morning, likely it's going to be the evening for you guys. So you might want to just be aware that it's going to be hitting a little bit later for you as I talk about this stuff. Anyway, Monday the 27th, we see the moon is still in Capricorn when we wake up. It's leaving that trine to Uranus, so maybe emotions and feelings have changed overnight since whatever kind of tension went down on Sunday. Something that I do like that's going to be happening is that we are going to see some air trines, but it's not really going to take place until the moon comes into the sign of Aquarius. So sometime later in the day, let's see, where is it? We're going to see a trine. We're going to see a conjunction and a trine. So this is going to be interesting to watch. Kind of like mid-afternoon, moon ingress into Aquarius. Obviously, when we're looking at either, you know, Aquarius or Aquarius transits, we're paying attention to what's going on with Uranus. So pay attention here. Mercury is getting close to Uranus. So we're going to start kind of feeling frazzled. You know, our brains are kind of short-circuiting. We're having issues with vehicles or something that's kind of weird with the credit card machines. Maybe we're noticing the internet's going out. Something like that could be happening. But there could be some shocking and surprising news that's building, connecting to, you know, banking and markets and things like that. Sweet and salty, but still I think it's sweet. I mean, yeah, moon conjunct Pluto, the collective responds to things very intensely. We do feel like there is some kind of emotional threat or there is some kind of scare that comes up. But this is going to be trining Jupiter. So Jupiter will be receiving a trine from the moon and Pluto. So where there is some kind of going deep, purging and getting information and dealing with, you know, things that are in the shadow, it's trining out to Jupiter and eventually, you know, Venus and the Sun. So Tuesday is a day that I do feel like there is going to be some very strong opportunity to relay information or to communicate. And that's going to be kind of building the later part of Monday into Tuesday. So whether you need to write an email, you need to share some information with someone, you need to connect in a very powerful way, you can work with the moon conjunct Pluto, trine Jupiter. It's a wonderful time to like send out a newsletter to people and be like, I'm, rounding up the troops, and sharing something with a group of people. The other thing to look at also is that you do have Mercury now in a sextile to Saturn, okay? And you'll see this throughout today as well. And this is where we're communicating and relaying information or making decisions that are very grounded and practical, but it's feeding off of Saturn, which is patience. It's also about our vision. It's about our beliefs. I'm not totally thrilled that Saturn is hitting 18 and Mercury is hitting 18, because even though the sextile is friendly, we do see things that come up revolving around job numbers and issues with clients and problems relating to health. That can definitely be a thing, and you'll see more of that as the week goes on. So let's see, what else do we have going on here? That's pretty much it. That moon will eventually move through, taking us into Tuesday the 28th, and it's in the very early morning hours, the moon will start to trine Venus as well as the sun. So depending on where you are in the world, can be a little bit sweeter, honestly, on Tuesday morning. So Venus and the sun will receive a trine from the moon, which means things are flowing. Communication is great. We're glad to hear from the people we're hearing from. It's great for kind of socializing and getting together on Tuesday morning. And then eventually the moon is going to start coming into a trine with the south node and a sextile with the north node. So what does this mean? Well, when the moon, which is our emotions, is going through Aquarius, we are focusing on the future, we're connecting with other people, we're gathering, we're socializing, we're having events, and this is about clearing out something connecting to relationship karma, the past. We're talking about who we've been with and what we've supported and what we've experienced in relationships, and through some kind of collective or group, kind of dynamic, we're able to kind of clear some of those hangups that we have to where we felt like we were indebted to somebody or we felt like we were stuck in a relationship. Equally, at the same time, we're also going to see the moon sextile the north node. So this is really wonderful for activating our future. This is wonderful for, really getting us motivated to make a change. Wonderful time if you happen to have more of a flexible schedule and like you can go and have breakfast or lunch with a group of friends. I would do this on Tuesday. I feel like it can be a wonderful, empowering kind of connection. If you're wanting to have a group meeting, if you're wanting to do some team building exercises, wonderful time to do that. I think there can be a lot of support and encouragement and love and fostering of relationships and friendships through communication, socializing, and connection. All right, so that's basically going to be Tuesday. Now we are going to continue to watch that moon. It is going to come into a trine with the sun. That'll be very early in the morning, at least here in the United States. And then the moon is going to continue to move until it trines the south node, which looks like that's going to be in the later afternoon, and a sextile to the north node. So some pretty nice lunar transits on Tuesday. Tuesday, I think, is probably one of the nicer days, to be honest with you guys. All right, so we're going to take this now to Wednesday the 29th. Now, something that we are going to see, and this is going to happen at least in my neck of the woods, overnight in the early morning of Wednesday the 29th. That moon is still in Aquarius, but it's going to start coming into a square with Mercury and Uranus. Can be waking up to some shocking and surprising news. That can definitely be a theme as Uranus is getting closer and closer to that Mercury conjunction. When we see a square between the moon and Mercury, it's hard to communicate, hard to relate, hard to understand other people's needs and desires. Taurus is what we want, what makes us feel safe, and Aquarius is about the collective kind of community experience. So something is at odds about that. And the moon is going to continue, and then it will come into a square with Uranus, which is important. This is going to be the kind of late morning on Wednesday. This can be where, like we're having a difficult time adjusting to something, some physical change, some friendship change, some financial change. And it is going to be at a 24. So we're like, okay, something is dissolving, something's breaking down. We're not relating very well. You know, I don't have clarity on a situation. What the heck is going on? Which is not surprising with some other squares that we see coming up with planets in Pisces, but it's seemingly starting a little bit early. All right, so on the 29th, something else that you're going to be seeing is that Mars will come into conjunction with Chiron at 22 degrees of Aries. So if you happen to have any personal planets, sun, moon, and rising, like a node or any personal planet around, let's say 21 to 23 degrees of Aries, be extra mindful of this particular conjunction. Because, you know, Mars is about action and, you know, frustration or agitation or combativeness or heat or speed, and Chiron can be about accidents, things connecting to accidents or impact. Now, this aspect, I think, in a positive way, here is the positive, is that it's encouraging us on an individual level to use our assertiveness and drives as a means for healing. Honestly, my moon's at 22 degrees, almost 23 degrees, and I've observed that the Mars aspects to my moon, and when I've had this transit, now with Chiron being there, it's like frustration comes up to a point where it's like, okay, I'm finally going to do something, or I'm finally going to say something, or I'm finally going to, like, you know, blow up on a situation. That's how it's manifested for me, so don't feel bad if that's what's been going on for you. Sometimes it takes a couple of these cycles with like the moon going through there or Mars going through there or an eclipse to finally realize like this is a problem, this is creating an issue, it's actually creating wounding, right? Whether it's physically, emotionally, what have you. Now, I think it will definitely be about self-assertion, bravery, and the willingness to confront past wounds, but it can also trigger a surge of energy and motivation to confront one's deepest emotional pain and wounds, inviting us on an individual level to explore the ways in which we may have been holding ourselves back due to past hurts, and to find the courage to address and release them. Okay, so Mars can be about bravery, showing up and dealing with it and addressing it, but it can also be about being like, I'm cutting this off, or this ends here, or, you know, that's enough. Like that can definitely kind of come up. Now, Mars conjunct Chiron, though, be mindful that on an individual level, it's also about embracing your vulnerability and using it as a source of strength, right? Chiron was the wounded healer. He learned how to heal his own wounds. He learned how to teach other people. He was a brilliant teacher when it comes to healing. So a lot of this is also about acknowledging and accepting your wounds this week and tapping into like a wellspring of compassion and empathy for both ourselves and other people. And I think this aspect can lead to a profound journey of healing and empowerment, where one's wounds become the source of strength and resilience, you know, where conflict and combativeness can lead to misunderstandings and blowups, but also, you know, better assertiveness, better self-esteem, standing up for yourself, and also clearing the air. So if there's been residual issues and problems that keep coming up, you know, addressing them and dealing with them head on, right? That's what Aries does. But like I said, there can also be accidents, there can be injuries. Watch for issues with heat, impact, cutting, burning, things pertaining to the head and the face, because that's what Aries rules. Now, specifically 22 degrees is a degree that deals with skin, okay, specifically. So Aries is the face, 22 is a Capricorn degree, and it does deal with skin. It does deal with older age, or older individuals in our lives, or older men, because Mars is a masculine energy. It can also be about history, archaeology, something or someone from the past, things that are late or with delay, something that lasts long-lasting, trouble and issues that we've had with suffering, depression, anything that's cold or frozen, slow dragging, do something with delay, resistance, bad luck, skin diseases, cancer, long-lasting treatment, poverty, sour taste, things that are dark or black in color, rock, stiff stones or mountains, dust, dirty, unclean, or natural materials. True story, okay? And I've noticed this the last 6 years with these transits. And I'm telling the universe right now, I'm not speaking this into existence, but every single time I've had the Mars moon transit, personally, I've hit my head. And it's been the last couple of years. Even though Chiron hasn't been there, It's been bumping my head on a car door, you know, getting smacked by a freezer, fridge door, standing up, running into something. And so like I can attest that this is very much a thing. So be mindful whether that's your head or head on. This can also be allergy issues and issues with sinuses, fevers, fever blisters, sunburns. Okay, all of these things can kind of correlate to this transit. Now, the Sabian symbol, on the other hand, because it's at 22 degrees and change, we're going to read 23 degrees, and we're going to see what that Sabian symbol is, which I should know by heart by now. All right, so 23 of Aries, a woman in pastel colors carrying a heavy but valuable and veiled load. The theme is behind the scenes. The symbol speaks to privacy, to the unreliability, to superficial appearances. The image of a woman in pastel colors carrying a heavy and valuable but veiled load presents the contrast between light and gentle appearance of the woman and the heavy but disguised burden she carries. The implication here is the load she carries is an important obligation, and despite the weight of it all, she is committed and not willing to give it up or share it. On a practical level, this symbol cautions against judging by appearances. It also implies the truth of the matter may be hidden or that some important secret is being kept. At its highest, the symbol represents integrity, discreetness, and a willingness to accept responsibility without complaint. Watch for hidden agendas or deception. The accent is on mystery and things that are hidden and not what they appear to be. Your greatest advantage lies in keeping quiet, not revealing too much at this time, but demand full disclosure in your dealings with others. Guard against underestimating the value of importance of what hasn't been said. Buying a pig in a poke or saying yes before you get all the facts could prove costly. Stepping stones are shyness, privacy, reluctance, secrets, concealment, camouflage, discreetness, confidentiality, hidden strength, responsibility, or burden. Well, for me, this is when we put it together, right? That's the Sabian symbol. And the Sabian symbol, in my mind, can be like an action that can include a person who's like a primary caregiver for like a sick relative, carrying the emotional and physical weight of the responsibility, but presenting a strong and kind of composed front to the world, right? You don't know what battles they're facing, right? They seem fine. Another example could be a person who's dealing with personal trauma or a difficult past, but keeps that part of their life hidden from others. This can carry a heavy load internally while outwardly appearing as if everything is fine. Now, the fact that Mars is there is basically saying it's bringing it up, okay? It's making you deal with it right now, in this moment. Long-standing issues and problems. I've seen some people who have had this that have been having like inflammation, and I think it's been from like resentment and holding on to anger and frustration and not working through things, and then realizing that that's the root of why they've been having aches and pains and inflammatory issues or rashes or fevers. I've also, and I say that because of the connection to skin, but I've also seen this be where these veiled things that we're carrying with us end up having real significant negative impacts, especially things that we've been carrying around for so long. Frustration, blockages, anger, resentment, grudges, right? And where we carry those, and it's like it's not doing us any favors. It's putting us at war with ourselves. That's quite literally the Mars Chiron, I think, aspect, is that we're fighting with ourselves. So I think it's going to be bringing it up front and center for us individually. Out in the world, you're going to see that it's going to be like, well, you know, there's talk of war and there's this war going on, or war is coming, or like whatever, like you're going to hear that stuff. I think it's hard not to talk about the North Node in Aries or Chiron in Aries or Mars in Aries without these things happening, because archetypally that's kind of playing out. You see that as above, so below. And there will be more of this, guys. Mars will conjunct Jupiter. We're also going to see a pretty gnarly Mars retrograde at the end of the year. Call me, cynical, but people always talk about, well, war is coming, things are coming. We're already at war. We're already in war. I really genuinely anticipate sometime this summer that we're going to start seeing more disclosure from certain countries that are finally admitting in a way of saying, well, now we're going to war with people that we have already suspected that we're at war with, right? Really interesting with what's going on in the elections in the UK right now. There's like a snap election happening in July, which is kind of unusual. I think we're also really going to start to see things ramp up in regards to the election that's going to be happening here in the United States. And, sometimes going to war can almost be like a Hail Mary, to kind of usher in and bring, you know, an existing president into, you know, a second term. So I hope that's not the case. I'm super anti-war, very pro-peace and finding the opportunity to overcome conflict. But we will see that it's difficult to keep people kind of cool, calm, and collected with this transit. And there are going to be some people that just want to fight, some people who just want conflict, and it's gonna cause some issues. All right, so that will hang around for like a day or so. I work with like a 2-degree orb, so by the time you're watching this, it's already coming into conjunction, and you're gonna be feeling it throughout, you know, the rest of the week. You know, ask yourself, what are you carrying around, and is it causing more hurt, more pain? Do you need to tend to an injury? Certainly injuries that happen under this conjunction, especially if you're seeing like conjunctions or squares in your natal chart, are something that you want to take care of, especially because I could see this like creating issues with a scar or something that you have for a long period of time. But also this could be about people being like, well, I'm finally going and getting treatment on a scar, or I'm finally having a surgery that I need to remove something, or I'm finally healing from a burn. Yes, that can happen there as well. Later you will see on the 29th, so this is still Wednesday that we're on, the moon is going to ingress into the sign of Pisces, and this will happen in the PM hours. Right off the bat, the moon at 0 degrees of Pisces will square its ruler Jupiter, which is in Gemini. So there can be some big emotions, big feelings, kind of playing off of that Mars-Chiron conjunction. Certainly when the moon is in Pisces, we want to scurry, we want to find our quiet spot, we want to get in bed, we want to watch a movie. We can see that there can be dark sides to this. You know, people are more prone to be feeling emotions very deeply with the moon in Pisces. Drinking, drugging, oversleeping, self-undoing, yeah. And so watch for the tendency to be like, I am self-soothing or self-sabotaging that can come up after a rather impactful last couple of days with Mars and Chiron. Love the moon in Pisces for healing, for alone time, for, you know, taking long baths, for going swimming, for meditating. These are positive ways that we want to use this, especially with all these planets in Gemini, because we can have a very overactive, very anxious mind. And we are going to notice also that as the moon goes through Pisces, it's also going to pick up a square to Venus and the sun. So in the PM hours on Wednesday, we are actually seeing the 3/4 square that is happening Wednesday into Thursday. It looks like as we wake up on Thursday the 30th, and the moon is starting to come into a square with Venus, so we can see some relational issues on Thursday morning. We can also see as the moon picks up the square to the sun, Thursday midday, things may not go according to plan, okay? So now we're seeing the 3/4 square. So if you think about the last new moon that we had in Taurus, right? Remember that new moon, conjunct Uranus? You know, now this is like the dismantling phase as we're getting ready to come into what will eventually be the new moon in Gemini next week. When the moon squares the sun, things don't go according to plan. They feel kind of jumbled. This is a mutable square. You know, I see this as, well, didn't you get my email? Or, you know, did you forget about our meeting? Or, you know, I can't get to work because there's some crazy or extreme weather. Because mutable squares can be about change of situations, change of weather, change of communication, beliefs, that kind of stuff. So as that moon swings through Pisces, Thursday is a day where things, I think, feel jumbled. You know, and we're also majorly starting to feel this Mercury-Uranus conjunction. So if Gemini is about communications, and, you know, Pisces is about what we can't see coming or where there is some disconnection or isolation, this transit of the moon as Mercury and Uranus are about to collide can make me feel like there can be some weather events that can certainly have some impact on power, electricity, communication, internet, and something that makes people, you know, experience outages. That could very much happen. Now, the conjunction that we're going to see is going to be at 24 degrees. So that's going to be happening, it looks like, later in the day. For me, like Mercury conjunct Uranus is like, I don't know, it's having too much caffeine, you know, or energy drinks. It's, you know, that mental overload and being stimulated, the mind feeling kind of like on fire, you know, feeling very anxious and restless. The key to this, guys, is grounding your energy, okay? As we're getting into mid to the end of the week, Get your feet out in the dirt. Go and do some yoga in your backyard. Go for a walk. Go be in your garden. Work with crystals. Use a grounding mat. Do simple things to ground your body so you're not feeling so kind of energetically zapped and also mentally fried, because that can definitely happen. The conjunction between Mercury and Uranus will be at 24 degrees, and it looks like that's going to be happening technically on the 31st, but you're going to be feeling it on the 30th. So get into the swing of doing your grounding stuff, you know. I would say on Thursday night going into Friday, expect that there can be some tension with communications. But that conjunction looks like it's going to be actually taking place very early on the morning on the 31st. That'll be at 24 degrees of Taurus. Now, here's something that I kind of was like, this doesn't sit right with me. There's a couple different like weird Piscean things that are happening that's making me wonder what the deal is. We've got the moon that's going to be in Pisces. Okay, so it can be intuitive, emotional, spiritual, but it can also be somber. It can be about isolation, separation, or where things are kind of dissolving. Moon will come into conjunction with Saturn. So this will create limited emotions, feelings, connection. It can create issues revolving around fear of, you know, kind of what's going on in the world. Don't fear fear, okay? Focus on the reality you're building. But when that moon sits in between Saturn and Neptune, we can definitely see that there are some limitations that are coming up and fears and, you know, stuff where our imagination is getting the best of us. And like Mercury conjunct Uranus is prime time, tin hat, conspiracy theory, oh my God, shock and surprise information that you would never believe. So you can't really believe everything that you hear, but there can be some shocking information that can come out with this conjunction. Okay, so this is at a 24. Mercury conjunct Uranus in Taurus, 24. And that's a Pisces energy. And then we've got the moon, which is going through Pisces, at a Virgo energy, conjunct Saturn, which is about health. Okay, so, you know, for me, thinking about, okay, Pisces energy and also this 24, it's going to bring up themes of something disappearing or someone disappearing, something that we lose secretly or mysteriously, secrets that are being unexplored or unknown, fears, phobias, mental institutions, mental issues, diseases, hospitals, doctors, things that are invisible, to be invisible, medications, pharmacy, pharmacists, isolated places, religious or of a divine nature, hotels, things at night or dreams, oils, gas, gasoline, drug addicts, photography, false, insincere, counterfeit, things that are forged, vague, foggy, research, sea, by the sea, laboratory, science, drowning, poisons, and things that go missing. Okay, I know it's a laundry list of things as Pisces, but basically what I'm getting at is there's a very fishy energy on the 30th going into the 31st. And I don't know if it's going to be about money going missing out of accounts. I don't know. I think I spoke about this last week, but I'm here. I've been in Key West all month. And when I saw the news, I think it was last week, about people in Cuba waking up and finding that they can't get access to their bank accounts. They can't take money out. They're going to the ATMs. There's long lines. They're being told, you know, there is no resources. And like, that's a scary thing. Like, imagine waking up and having that. And I was like, wow, I'm 100 miles away. And there's people who are waking up realizing that they have no access to the resources and basically falling under what will probably eventually be some kind of like CBDC system, and that their money is no longer it's no longer valuable. Really puts things in perspective, you know. I mean, I can't imagine that. And I think that, you know, this Mercury Uranus conjunction can be about hearing that another bank fails, about something that we're going to see some overnight kind of currency conversion somewhere, that there is some kind of shock and surprise or issues with a financial system. And it's going to be creating stalls and limitations. I don't know, something just doesn't sit right with me about those degrees. And then the moon Saturn conjunction is like the hardening of how we respond to things emotionally. And like Saturn does represent leadership and control and boundaries and borders and like what we can and cannot have access to. And this is in a Virgo degree, so it's about health and resources. So I really feel like there's going to be some people who are going to probably be kind of wigging out about some of the news that they're hearing, whether it's about financial stuff or health-related things in the world, and getting kind of freaked out and scared about things we don't know yet. We don't have the facts. We don't have the information, right? We don't have the data. And I think that the Sabian symbol kind of perplexed me a little bit because I was like, this is such a peaceful Sabian symbol. So let me read it to you guys. It's 25 degrees of Taurus. The Sabian symbol is a large, well-kept public park. All right, a large, well-kept public park. The keyword is recreation. The theme is group work. The symbol speaks to a division of labor and the benefits to be gained by working with others in a common group endeavor. The image of a large, well-kept park describes a community gathering place, and it dramatizes the fact that there are some things in life that an individual can't accomplish by himself or require cooperative effort to establish and maintain. It emphasizes the fact that self-worth can be realized in the ordinary, everyday world as the individual discovers when or how he needs others and they need him in return. At its highest, the symbol represents community leadership and unselfish dedication to the welfare of all people. Watch for lack of self-confidence and a tendency to be easily swayed or influenced by the thoughts and opinions of other people. The accent is on enjoyment. Take your time to savor the fruits of your labor. Community and social gatherings will bring special pleasure. Your greatest advantage lies in working with a group rather than on a personal project at this time. Focus on aesthetics and add a touch of beauty to the world around you. So on one hand, we have this Mercury, Uranus, losing our mind. Oh my God, like what's happening, and like being afraid. And then on the other hand, we have Jupiter, which has just recently moved into Gemini, which is ruled, obviously, and connected. It rules Pisces and connected to Pisces. So you have like two options this week. It's like, are you going to kind of freak out and go berserk over something? Or are you going to say, I'm going to go and get the information. I'm going to communicate. I'm going to connect with local people. I'm going to talk to my neighbors. I'm going to, write something. I'm going to get on the internet and connect with other people. Don't get trapped in the fear game, basically, with whatever is kind of going on around the 30th going into the 31st. Stay informed. Information is powerful. Jupiter in, Gemini is going to teach us this. And you're also going to realize that not all of the information is going to be coming from your news stations or your radio stations. Not everything is going to be factual. Not everything is going to be let out. Quite literally, Saturn square Jupiter means there will be significant media blackouts about things that nobody on the media will talk about, but you will see it on certain platforms. There will be certain platforms that people will be discussing these things, and it's going to be like, what is that? And it can really shock and like wake up the collective. I think when I think about this degree, or this particular Sabian symbol, I think it implies a sense of stewardship and responsibility towards maintaining and preserving the beauty and order of shared spaces. Go to a park, meet with other people, get involved in your community, connect with other people. I think this is the importance of creating and maintaining environments that nurture the community and provide a place for people to connect. Libraries would be very much kind of connected, I think, to Gemini. Local learning centers, elementary schools, community spaces, cafes where people are working and like exchanging and, on their laptops, that kind of stuff. Take time to get out there and I think appreciate the beauty of life around you with this Sabian symbol. Contribute positively to your community, and I think it's really highlighting the value of leisure, recreation, and the social benefits that come from well-maintained communal areas. Pick up your trash. We shouldn't have to tell you that, but take care of those spaces if you value them. If you take your kids for a walk or your dog for a walk or you go on the beach or anything like that, it's not just about picking up after yourself, but also helping do that to preserve some of these spaces. That can be like a huge theme. Now in astrology, Taurus rules over a ton of things. It's a fixed earth sign, so it's very practical. It's ruled by Venus. But I think that the flavor of the shocking, surprising news and information is going to come under the realm of looking at it through the lens of Taurus, which is about material possessions, money, wealth, and material resources. This is all very much Taurus energy. It's about our approach to earning, saving, and spending. So shocking and surprising news that's coming out about government spending, about consumer affairs, about, banking regulations, that kind of stuff. Values and self-worth is another theme because Taurus is directly connected to self-esteem and it influences what we find valuable and worthy when it comes to our effort and our attention. It's what we buy, what we consume, what we collect, what we find beautiful, what brings us pleasure. This is also a sign that's about comfort and security. So Taurus rules over the pursuit of comfort and stability and security. It emphasizes the need for a stable foundation and physical comfort. But mentally, we're going to feel like, our mind is kind of fried, you know, like how can we find stability if some of these things are kind of going on, or some of these disruptions, right, Uranus, are taking place. So we can hear news that's disrupting this stuff. It can also be about sensuality and pleasure, because Venus is the ruler. So, you know, Taurus's association with things like food and luxury and physical touch, because they appreciate beauty and they seek to experience the finer things in life. So there can be like shocks and surprises to, oh, I didn't think I'd like that food, or I didn't think I'd like that perfume or cologne, or I didn't think I'd like that style. Mentally, we can be feeling a little rattled about making investments or what we're buying, or, you know, having conversations about what we need in relationships. That can definitely kind of come up. But there can be bright ideas and opportunities of, you know, sudden insights and realization about what we truly do value. Once again, Mercury rules Jupiter, guys. Mercury is the ruler of Jupiter, Venus, and the Sun. And it's 12th house to this, which means we're kind of shaking everything out about what we thought, you know, was safe and secure, or what was valuable, and we're tapping into, well, maybe there's a second option. Maybe we don't have to choose, you know, this person. Maybe there's another person that's better for us, or another job, or another location for where we could live. So keep an open mind. Keep an open mind about some of this stuff. Yes, some of these ideas are going to seem wild and out of the box and kind of scary, but we don't want to let fear run the show. Leaning into Jupiter trine Pluto, where they're kind of high-fiving each other, being like, okay, we're going to go big places, but it's going to require a lot of change, is going to require us to not be so mentally rigid about what the future holds, and be more optimistic about where we're going, and not get too fixated on the physical or the financial, but more the freedom that can come with changing our mind. Nature and agriculture, because of Taurus's connection to that. So things like gardening and, you know, growing food, or, you know, plants or flowers, that's connected to Taurus. And also persistence and determination, because Taurus is known for being very patient, very steadfast and determined. The Mercury Uranus is like super focused on making a change, super focused on figuring something out. Kind of liking that there's a sextile to Saturn a little bit, because it does seem like if we have a little bit of vision, we can actually build it, we can make it solid. And also a sextile to Neptune, which is about kind of our perception changing, right, 29 degrees, about how we communicate and how we connect. But still, there's something here about health and, you know, things connected to Virgo and Pisces, where it can be some rattling news about how some scares revolving around health can be impacting our food supply, or our resources, or our planet. You guys might hear some of that stuff. And just watch for, you know, Mercury Uranus really stimulating mental activity, and it can be feeling like I said, we stuck our finger in a light socket. It's important to stay grounded when this information comes up, or when we get kind of frazzled. You know, we really want to be focusing on making our ideas tangible and realistic, because that's what Taurus really wants us to have. And watch for sudden insights or breakthroughs relating to technology, science, or communication. But with Venus being the dispositor of this conjunction, okay, I definitely feel like there is going to be some sudden breakout news or information or money that is being made, you know, through some kind of new stock or technology, or something kind of connecting to like networks, or like new like apps. You know, phones could be Gemini, travel could be Gemini. And so that can be some groundbreaking stuff that's impacting the collective, and it can be like an opportune time for investments. All right, so we're going to see the moon come into conjunction with Saturn very early on the 31st. Hopefully you're asleep. And then when we wake up in the morning, the moon is sandwiched between Saturn and Neptune. So we're feeling a little kind of like unsure about things. We are starting to see that the sextile between the moon and Mercury and Uranus is really telling us all day long on the 31st. We got to listen to our intuition. What is our gut telling us? Watch for weather, watch for issues with flooding, watch for issues with rain. That's definitely a theme as we see the moon between Saturn and Neptune, because that can be about, you know, stuff that's going on with extreme water stuff. And that moon will sextile Mercury and Uranus. The 31st is the day to listen to your intuition. If your intuition is telling you don't do this, or watch for that, or be mindful of this, or wait and see, listen to your gut, because that sextile is fairly strong And Jupiter trine Pluto can be things that can give us insights that can also help protect us in situations that could be dangerous. All right. So we're going to see the moon come into a sextile kind of midday with Uranus and Mercury. Then it will come into conjunction with Neptune, and that's going to be happening in the PM hours in the evening. Watch dreams. Dreams might be very telling, very interesting. We might have some really strong, symbolism and things coming through our dream space. Obviously, that energetic degree of 29 degrees of Pisces before the moon breaks into Aries, which will happen in the later evening on Friday. Feels very critical, like something is kind of changing. We might be feeling more like staying home and kind of keeping to ourselves and keeping quiet on Friday night with that moon between Saturn and Neptune. Watch for issues pertaining to drugs, drinking, recreational habits like that, and self-undoing. There can definitely be more issues with that while the moon is conjunct Neptune. Feeling stronger feelings, being really kind of empathic and emotionally open. And then this is now going to take us to June the 1st, which is going to be, there we go, Saturday. One other thing that I wanted to know, I kind of said this already, but the connection between the moon sextiling Mercury and Uranus is likely going to be bringing some of these events that can bring issues with Taurus related things. So that sextile will activate Mercury, which can be birds, and Taurus, which can be food and consumption, and sudden increased cost of things or things hitting the news pertaining to that. Watch for upsets in communication, the mind, money, and resources regarding something disappearing, hidden money influences involving health and hospitals. Watch for potential issues with electrical disruptions, issues with the financial security, banking systems, and limitations to money and food. All right, so now we're in the 1st. We've got the moon that we have in Aries when we wake up. And we're gonna see right off the bat in the morning, that moon in Aries is kind of showcasing, what's happened recently with the Mars conjunction. Maybe we're feeling a little bit more assertive, a little bit more daring with the moon in Aries. And it's going to start coming into a sextile with Jupiter and also with Venus and the Sun. So June the 1st is a very up and at it day. Sextiles to Gemini helps us communicate, get going, travel, learn. Sextiles to Pluto and Aquarius is powerful. It's empowering. We will see at some point throughout this transit that the moon will come into conjunction with the North Node, which we know is very fated. There are things that happen when the moon comes into conjunction with its own node. I'm really kind of picking up from like late afternoon on as the moon is starting to sextile Venus and the Sun, which is aligning, by the way. They are by degree in conjunction, even though the Cazimi will not happen until next week. But if you guys want to hear about that, go listen to my horoscopes. But the conjunction to the North Node and the sextile to the Sun and the Moon is interesting. That's definitely kind of saying like we're taking action, we're daring, we're communicating when it comes to what we want, what we need. Right? And then it looks like the moon is going to align with the North Node in the PM hours at 14 degrees. A decent day. Venus is yet to have its Cazimi, so it's kind of behind the Sun, but we do see that Jupiter is officially in a trine with Pluto on Sunday, so that will be happening on the 2nd. We also see that the moon is conjunct the North Node, sextiling this. I really feel like Saturday is a pretty decent day. Tuesday and Saturday, I think, are my favorite days all week. And then that moon is going to continue to move through Aries into what will be Sunday the 2nd. So I gave you the warning last week about this Sunday and how you guys were going to feel kind of under the gun a little bit. So I have a warning for you guys for next Sunday. Next Sunday is like rock and rattle and roll energy, okay? My advice is have a plan for next Sunday. Like have something to do on the 2nd. Be physically active, okay? Get out, go for a run, go for a walk, focus on doing something that you want to do, something that is going to be about self-healing, something that is going to kind of get your blood pumping, work with like infrared saunas, get some sun, maybe, focus on making it a self-care day, something like that where you're taking action. Here's why. The same way that we saw Mars hit the 19 degrees earlier in the week, bringing up the solar eclipse. And then Mars hit Chiron, where there was like some wounding issues. And now we're going to see the moon come into conjunction on Sunday morning with Chiron and Mars. Likely this is bringing up some major friction. It looks like the conjunction is going to happen right around the late morning. So once again, I'm on Central Time. So if you're on Pacific, it's going to be around 10. If you're on Central Time, it's going to be around noon. If you're on Eastern Time, it's going to be closer to 1, where the moon will hit 22 degrees. It'll hit Chiron, and then it's going to pass that conjunction. So pretty much late morning until it starts to separate with Mars, which will collide around the early PM hours. Ooh, you know, Sunday is going to be a day. That's a day where you like want to run a marathon, you know, or you want to go to like your softball practice, or you want to go to your you know, kids' sports practice. Like there needs to be something that's active and dynamic or really focused on self-healing that's going on this day. Otherwise, this is going to be another one of those days when we're going to see ouchies relating to emotional issues, emotional flare-ups. You know, moon conjunct Mars is very agitated. It can be daring, exciting, and passionate. But this moon Mars is playing off of the conjunction to Chiron. And this is happening, technically the moon Mars conjunction is in an Aries degree, 25 degrees. So it's something we do for ourselves. So I want you guys to proactively go, okay, next Sunday, it's going to be a me day. There's something that I'm doing. It might be as simple as I'm going to go get myself a facial, and that's that. It might be that you're saying I'm going to curl up with a good book and I'm going to, you know, read some self-help books, or I'm going to, you know, go and do hot yoga, or I'm going to, you know, go and get my suntan on. It doesn't matter. Have an outlet that is working actively with this Mars energy. Otherwise, some of the same things that I told you earlier in this week are going to come up that you need to be aware of, that can be about aches and pains and accidents and issues pertaining to skin and relationships to older women, and, you know, kind of like moon 22 type themes. The other thing that's happening today is that this is the day that Jupiter trine Pluto will be exact, okay? Very interesting. Moon Mars, very intense, but, you know, Jupiter trine Pluto, even though it's positive and optimistic, it's also intense. This can be a release point. You know, I have seen in some transits for clients, I've studied death transit charts as well, that Jupiter and Pluto sometimes have relationships when we see like a release point when somebody transitions. So don't underestimate the power of Pluto. I'm not saying this to scare you guys, but definitely Jupiter trine Pluto does represent this energy of being free and being released in some way. And then you factor that in with like the moon, Mars, and Chiron conjunction. It can be a time where we're finally releasing our frustration and our fears and our pain. And maybe that's through communication or writing or sharing. But this can also be a time where there's just a lot of emotional kind of drama out in the skies. Watch for this being significant for transformation, both personally and collectively. Like I said, this is a very powerful alignment that's really saying that this is a time of growth and empowerment, and it's really about profound changes on a global scale. Now, during this transit on an individual level, you may feel like this heightened sense of purpose and a desire to make an impact in the world. It can bring about opportunities for growth and expansion, and encouraging individuals to tap into their inner power and use it for positive change in the lives of yourself and other people. Now, on a global scale, this trine between Jupiter and Pluto can lead to significant shifts in power dynamics and the potential for collective transformation. The transit is associated with a time of increased ambition and drive for the collective goals, and can lead to major developments in areas connected to politics, religion, and social movements. Gemini and Aquarius are air signs, you know, so it is intellectual and communicative and social, but there's distinct differences between Gemini and Aquarius. You know, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It's all about intellect and communication, and it's about being adaptable and curious and versatile. And it's also very social, because Gemini are social creatures. They love to engage in lively conversation, and they're always open for like talking about and debating things. Versus Aquarius, on the other hand, ruled by Uranus. So this is the planet of innovation and change, and they're also co-ruled by Saturn. And Aquarius is about independence, originality, and humanitarianism. This is a sign that's known for their forward-thinking ideas and desire to make a difference in the world, and their unique perspective on life. So when we bring these two signs together, you know, it's intellectual and social, but Gemini is more focused on communication, while Aquarius is going to be more about innovation and social change. So I think that this is going to bring up opportunities for, you know, bigger dynamics and conversation about global affairs. It's going to be about sharing our love of learning and intelligence with other people. And I definitely feel like this is a time where there's going to be some interesting stuff that's going to happen here, guys. You know, Gemini is very much connected to news anchors. It's very much connected to people who do television work. It's also connected to people who write books or write children's books or people who teach children. And the trine to Pluto can highlight collectively, like on the internet, some of these people. I also feel like this is possibly going to be about some comedian going viral potentially for their insights or their ability to shock or wake up the masses with some statement that they make. So I think about like what's happened in the past where, you know, certain comedians have made very controversial statements about world affairs. Let's just leave it at that. And like the wave that came from that, where there was such pushback and then also support for comedians sharing these things. On behalf of all, you know, Jupiterian people, I got Jupiter in the 10th house. I feel like you have to be funny in order to be personable, and you have to learn to laugh at yourself and laugh at situations. I think it's the best medicine, and it's the best way of relating to other people and also teaching. There is going to be, and some comedians have said this already for some time, but this is going to be known as the period where there's a war on comedy. Because Jupiter in Gemini is comedians, people who talk about things, share things, people who are on social media, people who travel. And we will see Jupiter come into a square with Saturn, where there is going to be, I think, somebody who comes out during this period, probably in like the next week or two, that makes some very big statements about what's going on in the world and leadership and what's happening with some of these major transformational movements with Pluto and Aquarius. And I think it's going to definitely go viral or make major headlines, but you're going to see that that person is going to be majorly kind of like censored, or, you know, they're going to try to cancel them or something when Jupiter starts coming into a square with Saturn. So I wonder who it's going to be. I think of like, what's his name? Russell Brand's a Gemini. Obviously this will probably be a very colorful time for like Kanye. I just think of like major Geminis, you know, Trump, and where there is going to be some criticism with them tweeting, publishing, texting, sharing, talking about their truth. I'm not saying it's the truth, but their truth. And so it's, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So I'm curious who that's going to be, that's going to say something that's going to be like very controversial and out there. Watch for change in leaderships coming up. PMs, presidents, heads of groups, business associations going through a change of leadership. Well, I should have thrown a party, but I think it's a little too early to celebrate. But recently, Klaus Schwab stepped down from the World Economic Forum. I think that's a sign of like Pluto, Jupiter kind of stuff, where there is, you know, new people kind of coming in. Granted, his son, his daughter, and his wife all still work for the foundation, so I don't think that's the end of it. There's also talks of maybe Tony Blair coming in and replacing him. So enough with that, but watch for major transformation that's going on with like leadership, and this could be heads of companies, so it could be like, you know, like presidents and you know, people who are heads of major groups, and like panels. Pluto and Aquarius can be panels of powerful people, and announcements being made of changes that's going on within that, of leadership. Powerful information about AI, intelligence, surveillance, and the impact that it has on control of groups. Big data information news, especially pertaining to, you know, softwares and things. Okay, so we might hear more about surveillance and law. Jupiter is law, by the way. It's not Saturn. Jupiter rules laws. Pertaining to who can talk on the internet, what you can say on the internet. Documents are Gemini, so paperwork, things that are signed, pertaining to major decisions for the masses. As you guys are watching this, what is today? So you guys are watching this on the 26th. I believe it was the 26th or 27th, but this is the week that we are supposed to find out exactly what has happened with the World Health Organization's pandemic treaty. Who will sign on for it? What will be agreed upon? Full disclosure, there has been amendments made to it, but it has not been made public. So I'm anticipating that Jupiter trine Pluto is like people starting to realize, those who are agreeing to this, the implications that there may be in the future, especially us not knowing what those amendments are, and the impact that it may have on your country's rules and regulations. So that's all I can say on that without getting in trouble. Anyway, that's the week at a glance. So good luck, Godspeed. There's definitely a lot going on. Like I said, I talk about all these transits in my monthly horoscopes. I already did a previewing Jupiter and Gemini video. A lot of people have been like, where's the video? Go and find it. It's on my list. Maybe I'll tag it in the comments. But I just want to remind you guys where Jupiter is going. And I want you to remember something, okay? Jupiter is hanging out this week with Venus, with the sun. Mercury will be there soon as well. So really powerful communication days coming up. That trine to Pluto is awesome if you're willing to embrace change. Don't be afraid of the future. Be a part of the collective conversation about where the future is going. Don't just accept that things are going to hell in a handbasket. I am a Western astrologer. I practice whole sign astrology. That is what I do for you guys. Personally, I'm a Placidus girl myself, but I got to do whole sign for the 12 rising signs, so it makes sense for everybody. You can use the whole sign method because Jupiter is going to be entering a new sign. So first things first, you have to know your sun, moon, and rising placements. If you don't, check out a birth chart calculator online. You can do it for free on astro.com. Put in your time, date of birth, and location. You'll get the info as to where your big three is. Look for Gemini in your chart. That's where Jupiter is going. And this is going to be felt the most by Gemini, sun, moon, and rising placements. Specifically, Jupiter is going to go between 0 and 19 degrees this year. So the first 5 degrees or so are going to feel it pretty strongly in the next month. Equally, those of you guys who are Sagittarius and Pisces rising, because Jupiter is your rising sign ruler. So wherever Jupiter goes, you got to go. You're going to feel some Jupiter squares. So you're going to have growing pains. So there's going to be, your planet going through another sign that's going to be of the same duplicity as you. So it's going to square you a little bit. And this is going to be for the 12 rising signs. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a brief synopsis of what's happening with this Jupiter transit. All right, so we're going to start first with Aries and Aries rising. What's up, guys? I hope you're well. Jupiter will be transiting your natal 3rd house, okay? It'll be all year long. You'll see that transit taking place where it's going to be increasing communication, learning, and mental expansion. So you may develop more of like a philosophical outlook and a greater appreciation for knowledge and education. You could get a new car, right? You could move. It's also possible that you may be bettering your relationships with siblings, neighbors, and acquaintances because this is the 3rd house. Some of you guys will take up and get into writing, publishing, sharing, teaching, and Jupiter is connected to the 9th house of these topics as well as the 12th house of the subconscious. Get out there, start going for walks, biking, listening to podcasts, that kind of stuff that's really going to be stimulating your mind. Good luck. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You'll be experiencing Jupiter leaving your sign, okay, Taurus? So there's been all these new things for you this year. And now Jupiter is going into your 2nd house of money and resources. Taurus, this is a great transit for you. I see this as being a transit that is very much associated with growing your wealth, growing your resources, strengthening your self-esteem. This is an opportunity to bring in a second type of income. So sometimes we see doubles when we see Gemini. So there could be a second income that comes in, or maybe you get a boost in your income somehow. Jupiter rules your 8th house of other people's resources, taxes, investments, also inheritance or alimonies or support of some kind. So you have Jupiter going into your 2nd house where you're receiving support from someone else. So it might mean that an investment pays off, you cash out on it, right? It might mean that you get an inheritance, you cash out on it. Jupiter is also connected to your 11th house of goals and friends and other people. So some of you guys might start working with a friend. Some of you guys might have a shift in the way that you look at your relationship to money and how you're wanting to make money, and you're looking at making some changes there. Regardless, this is generally considered a pretty fortuitous transit, especially because Jupiter is going to be picking up a trine to Pluto in your house of career. So through powerful transformation at work, with your career, with your status, it's helping you increase your spending abilities and also your self-esteem. Good luck. We have got Gemini rising. Obviously, all eyes are on you guys. This is such an amazing energy for you. Jupiter will be going through your first house if you are a Gemini sun, moon, or rising, but the rising is going to get the first house transit. This is going to be really expanding everything about you. How you look, your philosophy, your visibility. It's going to increase travel, and I think you're going to be more positive and optimistic. This can also be a transit that can be about growth, okay? So it can mean that you're like, I want to grow as a person. I want to be a public speaker. I want to grow, you know, something about my appearance. But this can also be a transit that puts on the pounds. So be mindful with Jupiter crossing your ascendant that if you're not growing, learning, expanding, or traveling, it can be about noticing that you're getting a little indulgent. We'll just leave it at that. Jupiter rules your 7th house of relationships and other people, as well as your career. So with Jupiter in your 1st house, you're attracting clients, you're attracting partners. Maybe people want to be around you. They want to see what you have. They're interested in what you have to offer. So if you have a business or if you have services, that can come up. And it's your 10th house of career and reputation. So all eyes are on you. This is a brand new beginning for you, Gemini. I hope it's a good one. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Jupiter transiting through your 12th house. All right, so the 12th house is hidden. It's the subconscious. The positive is that Jupiter in this sign, for me, almost acts like a guardian angel because, you know, next year Jupiter will go into your sign. So this is the house of subconscious, healing, completion, spirituality, foreign travel. So you may notice there's an increase in spiritual growth and inner development, a deeper understanding of the mysteries of life, and you may experience a greater sense of compassion, empathy, and selflessness, and leading to a more meaningful and purposeful life. So volunteering, donating, getting involved in nonprofit work, that can happen. It's also a transit that's connected natally to your 9th house. So it's wonderful for going back to school, getting degrees, getting some kind of training under your belt. And it's connected to Sagittarius, which is about your 6th house of habits, routines, health, and well-being. This can be an indication that you're dealing with your health through matters of the mind, mental health, you know, affecting your physical health. It can also be about you know, participating in some kind of new faith-based program or something that really impacts your daily routine and your habits. That could be another way of looking at it. But see, this is the year where you're really doing a lot of this work behind the scenes, and you're kind of clearing up a lot of things revolving around your health, your habits, and your belief system before Jupiter goes into your sign next year. Good luck. We now have Leo and Leo rising. You guys will be experiencing Jupiter's transit in your natal 11th house. For you guys, this is such a fun place to have Jupiter. It is all about, you know, connections to other people, parties, gatherings, friends, associations. Jupiter loves the 11th house. This is going to be a year where your social circle is likely to expand and include associations that hold meaning and purpose, adding more depth and richness to your life. So get ready. You're going to see your social schedule is going to expand. You might join new groups and associations, and there's going to be some real profound changes maybe going on for some of your friends. I have found a Jupiter in the 11th house transit. Friends can have kids, right? Or you're spending more time maybe going to parties, or you're having to kind of join groups, or you're doing some networking stuff, and it's fun. You're meeting other people. Jupiter rules your 8th house of joint resources and change or transformation. It's also connected to your 5th house of dating, creativity, children, and self-expression. So I love this for like going to parties, going to clubs with other people. It can be great for if you're wanting to do any acting or comedy related things, like joining a group. If you want to join a writer's group, that would be great for this. And a lot of this is going to be about learning to be more vulnerable and more open with other people, and like letting other people know that you're wanting to expand your social circle and you know, meeting new friends. I think it's wonderful for this particular transit for you guys. Good luck. Also, romance. You can meet people at parties and gatherings because of the connection to your 5th house. So go out and socialize and you'll meet people. We have got Virgo and Virgo rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Jupiter's transit in the sign of Gemini in your natal 10th house of career and reputation. My Virgos, this is really big for your career, guys. This is huge for major changes to your career and your status. Okay, so when I say status, relationship status, right? Career status, how people know you out in the world. There's lots of change happening here. Obviously, you are also a mutable sign, so Jupiter will be squaring your ascendant, your descendant, and also opposing your IC, which means through changes in your status, it's affecting you as a person, your relationships, and your home and family. Jupiter squares are growing pains. That's the best way that I can put it. It does kind of bring situations to a head where we need to grow into something new. So I think with this transit, you will experience increased career success and recognition, and definitely personal achievement. You may develop more of an ambitious and goal-oriented attitude, leading to increased opportunities for advancement and leadership. I do feel like relationships with clients, new business partners, and romantic relationships can be found definitely at work, and you'll probably see that especially when Mercury comes into conjunction with Jupiter. Maybe you meet somebody at the office and it turns into a relationship, but it also can mean that you start working with a new company, or you somehow start supporting like a new partner of some kind professionally. And Jupiter rules your 4th house of home. So when Jupiter goes into your 10th house, you're like, I'm getting out of the house. I am going to work more often. You know, I'm no longer working from home or hybrid. Now I'm going to be working at the office, or I'm launching a business, or I'm announcing a new business, you know, kind of collaboration. But this can also be big news where you're moving for a job, or, you know, you have a partner that's relocating to be with you. This can also be a time where your relationship status is very much public because Jupiter rules your 7th house. So it can be about getting married, getting engaged, changing relationship status, separating. It really depends on the other aspects. After all, we know that Saturn's in your 6th house. So something you'll deal with this year is like all these amazing new growth opportunities happening in your career, but it's at what cost to your relationships, or their lack of, if you're like, I don't have time to date, and you'll kind of have to weigh those options as the year goes on. Good luck, my Virgos. We have Libra and Libra rising. You're going to be experiencing Jupiter transiting in the sign of Gemini in your natal 9th house. If you happen to be early degree Libra, sun, moon, or rising, I would say like the first 5 degrees or so, you guys are going to benefit from these transits the most, because you're going to be experiencing Jupiter trining your sun, moon, or rising, as well as Pluto. So you'll get a grand air trine. Basically, Jupiter loves the 9th house, okay? It has traditional associations with Sagittarius in the 9th house. So some astrologers consider Jupiter in the 9th house a very fortuitous transit. So something to think about is that when Jupiter goes through the 9th house, it's leading to increased opportunities for travel, for higher education, for spiritual growth. You may develop more like of a philosophical outlook on life and a greater appreciation for different cultures and belief systems. Jupiter rules your 3rd house of communication, cars or vehicles, siblings. It's also about learning and anything connecting to like websites or, you know, relationship to siblings or neighbors. And it's going to move into the 9th house. It also has connections to your 6th house of health, habits, pets, and daily routine. So for you, I see this as like a year where if you want to go back to school, if you want to get a degree, if you want to publish a book, if you want to teach something, this is the year to do it, because you're going to see there's going to be a lot of growth in this area. The only thing to consider is that there seems to be some educational things going on, because Jupiter rules your 3rd house of the mind and like what you learn, and then this is like what you teach. Great year to go to another country to learn a new language. I think that would be wonderful as well. And watch for like a new teacher or a guru or a mentor that could enter your life. Also really great for ceremonies. So you could be graduating or talking about getting married here as well with Jupiter in the 9th house. We have Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You guys will be experiencing Jupiter's transit through the sign of Gemini in your natal 8th house. All right, Scorpio, here's the deal. 8th house is definitely a tricky house. It can be sweet and salty, but thankfully you have a very sweet planet moving through your 8th house. This transit can bring increased resources, financial support, and shared wealth through partnerships or investments. However, okay, this requires transparency, this requires honesty, this requires overcoming fear. You may experience a deepening of your understanding of the mysteries of life, leading to a personal transformation and spiritual growth. So the 8th house is your partner's money. If you're in a relationship, if you're committed, so your spouse might come into some money, they may have an increase in their resources. It's also possible that you're focusing on talking about, right, Gemini, increasing your resources through investments with another person. Now, Jupiter rules your 2nd house of personal possessions. So you somehow have a growth in your resources through another person. So it could be through a sibling, through an uncle, through a cousin. It could also mean that you have money that comes in the form of a loan, or maybe there is like a higher, credit limit that comes in, because the 8th house can be like credit limit. Jupiter also has connections to your 5th house of children, dating, relationships, creativity. So if you're investing more in your creative projects, and if you're self-employed or anything like that, maybe you're taking chances with investments, you might see those investments really start to pay off. The one thing that I will say is that the 8th house does deal with death and transformation. So it's very unusual to see a Jupiter transit in the 8th house. In my opinion, that doesn't correlate with not necessarily a physical death. It can mean that someone leaves your life in this next year. It doesn't have to, but it's more likely going to be a situation that ends, that makes way for a new beginning, and it's going to benefit you somehow. And I noticed that Jupiter off the bat trines Pluto, which is your chart ruler. So it's worthy of mentioning that whatever this change that's coming in is, it's going to radically change and transform something about your home and your physical kind of living experience. Some of you guys may inherit homes, you might inherit property, there might be some new investment that's brewing that's really going to help you set up your home, your family, and your legacy, I think, for quite some time, okay? So good luck, Scorpio. Let me know how that goes. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You guys will be experiencing Jupiter's transit through the sign of Gemini, your opposite sign in your natal 7th house. So this is really cool, Sag. Obviously, Jupiter rules your chart. So wherever Jupiter is where you will be found. And Jupiter in the 7th house says, well, there's new relationship and partnership opportunities. Like I said to Virgo, and I will tell Pisces, there will be some mutable squares. So you're going to have to kind of look at the give and take of situations. But for the most part, this is a once in a 12-year transit for you that is bringing you the opportunity to have partnerships. People can come in twos. It can be also about benefiting an existing relationship, growing more so together, communicating better, talking better to one another. It can be that there is more closeness with a sibling or with a neighbor. This is a transit that can also bring in a new counselor, a therapist, more clients. So it's a lot of you working with other people, a lot more than usual, basically. That's kind of how I see this. The other way of looking at this is that Jupiter also rules your 4th house of home, family, and your private life. So very likely what you'll see is that through this transit, you can have increased harmony and cooperation in existing relationships, new people that can come into your life, and experience growth in your personal and professional relationships as well as, increased opportunities for collaboration and teamwork with other people. I also feel like relationships from the past can come back up because the 4th house is the past. It can better relationship with family members. And I see this as maybe growing in a relationship is going to come as a result of, going and visiting and spending time with a partner, or talking about living together or moving in together. that might be a tricky topic. Some of you guys will meet people who live in other places. Others will meet people where you guys live in 2 different places, and like somebody may be reluctant to moving or buying a home. And I say that because, well, this is going to oppose your sign, and eventually you'll see in August and December it will square Saturn. So there is something grounding you, whether it's like, I already have my home, I don't want to move in with them, or, you know, I live at home, I have to go and visit them somewhere else, or I'm taking care of a parent. There's something that's kind of keeping you grounded here that you're going to kind of have to work through. But the good news is, like, there's going to be a lot of growth in relationships of all kinds, and really enhancing and bringing lots of beauty and joy. And it's playing very nicely with the sextiles to your 5th house of romance. So it's looking really good for a lot of you Sagittarians. Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Jupiter's transit through your natal 6th house in the sign of Gemini, and that is going to be highlighting all of the 6th house things. During this transit, you may experience improvement to your health, work environment, and daily routines. You may develop a more organized and disciplined approach to your work, leading to increased productivity and efficiency. You're like, oh, how is that even possible? It's possible. Trust me, with Jupiter in the 6th house. I really feel like it's not just about productivity. It's going to be about where you're taking better care of your mental health and the effects and the way that that impacts your physical health and your productivity and routine. It could quite literally be about your sleep because of Jupiter's connection to your 12th house, or your spiritual perspective, your meditation habits. And Jupiter also has a connection to your 3rd house of communication. So I feel like you're learning to be like, I'm turning the laptop off, or outside of business hours, I'm not answering phone calls, or I'm putting my phone on do not disturb when I go to bed. Something like that, where you're creating better boundaries of communication and work and habits. This is a wonderful time to join a gym, start a new health routine, you know, start walking or biking. That can be wonderful because Gemini can be about that movement. And some of you guys will get a new office space, or you'll be working with new team members. Others will have changes to their schedule, which is amplifying the amount of work that they have, especially if you work in education or writing. I think it's going to be interesting, because I think some of you guys may be taking on more than one job. That can actually happen with this particular transit. The only catch is that you will really be feeling, you Aquarius and Pisces will really be feeling these squares that will happen to Saturn. Saturn rules your chart. So a lot of it is how you're communicating with people at work, what you're telling people you have time or do not have time for. This is also about bettering not just mental health, but lung health and like mobility. So maybe you're going to be like, okay, I'm meditating, I'm doing breath work, I'm going for walks. Some combination of that seems to be about where breath is somehow also connected to your health and your daily routine. After all, the lungs is what's connected to Gemini. Anyway, more on that in your horoscope, so check that out. But yeah, let me know, how many of you guys take on a second job? How many of you guys adopt a pet? That's something else that could also happen here because the 6th house is pets. All right, so now we have Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You guys will be experiencing Jupiter's transit through the sign of Gemini in your natal 5th house. So first of all, great energy because it is in a sister air sign. So if you happen to have early degree Aquarius, sun, moon, rising, like the first, 3 to 5 degrees, you'll be experiencing a trine, which is really cool with Pluto being in your sign. It means that you're really open to change and transformation. You're having a complete heart opening in the 5th house, learning how to create and share and be on stage and have playtime and time for romance and potentially good things that can be coming involving lovers or younger people or children. This transit through the 5th house can lead to increased creativity, self-expression, and enjoyment of leisure activities. So it's a good time to pick up a hobby. You may experience a boost in self-confidence, romance, and success in creative pursuits. I think of hobbies and things you can do with your hands, right? Most things, I would assume. But Gemini can be creative writing. It can be stand-up. It can be things connecting to acting. It can be sewing, knitting, anything you can do with your hands, basically. And Jupiter is the ruler of your 2nd house. So yes, some of you guys will be like, I'm going to take a chance and try to launch this business, or I'm going to get into professional gambling. Cannot recommend it, but okay, sure. Some of you guys might consider doing that. Jupiter also is connected to your 11th house of other people. So maybe you find something that is kind of competitive that you can do with other people that could make money, or you could see, you know, the value or the investment of investing, you know, time or money or resources into launching something. Great for those who are self-employed. Great also for those who have kids. It could be good news for your kids, or potentially with trines to your ascendant, news of a kid being on the way. Those of you guys who are single, get out there, mix and mingle, go out to bars, go to shows, places where you're connecting with other people, because it will open up the door for romantic relationships as well. Good luck, guys. I hope that's a good one for you. And then we have got my Pisces and Pisces risings. All right, so you guys are ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter will be transiting the sign of Gemini in your natal 4th house. Wherever Jupiter is kind of where you are. I know you're co-ruled by Neptune, so you'll want to be mindful both with the Saturn squares that you're going to see sometime in August and then December. But even next year, towards the end of the Jupiter transit, it will be coming into a square with Neptune. Different story, different day. For right now, the focus is expanding something when it comes to your home and your family. That seems to be the theme here. So it can bring happiness and comfort and a sense of security to your home life. Some of you guys will expand your home, renovate, you'll buy a second home. Your family might come into some wealth. It can improve your living conditions, increase family harmony, and find a greater sense of well-being. All good stuff. This can also be about going back home, moving back home with family. It can be about expanding or remodeling a home with a sibling. It could be about investing in a second property that could bring income. Jupiter doesn't just rule you, it also has connections to your career and your status. So it might mean that you're like, oh, you know, I'm working from home now, or now I'm getting involved in the family business, or I've started a family business, or I'm involved in property or real estate. So any of these things can kind of happen. I think that I would watch specifically the transits that happen over June when you see squares to Saturn and Neptune, because it will start to kind of show you like, hey, I could live somewhere else, but like, am I open to it? Like, I could go back home, but like, am I saying no? I could go and be with family, but like, you know, am I kind of in hermit mode? You know, these things can come up. Yes, Jupiter will retrograde at some point. So I think that you guys really benefit from either keeping an open mind at home or being flexible with your living situation, and know that regardless of what you do, likely this transit is going to end next year with having a much more improved, a better home and living situation. I think it's just about being very selective and weighing your options between two different places, and being flexible before ultimately you pull the trigger and you're like, okay, this is the one that I want, or this is what I want to buy, or this is the city that I want to move to. And some really beautiful things can be happening for you and your family. So I hope it's a good one for you guys. But that's the week at a glance. Like I said, okay, you know, Jupiter is in Gemini, too many words. I'll leave it at this. I hope it's a very productive week for you guys. It's very dynamic energy, and I'm excited to see how it manifests for everybody. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. A thumbs up or leaving me a comment is really helpful, because if you guys engage with my YouTube channel, other people are gonna see my work. It's gonna help get it out there into the interwebs, and other people are gonna know how to navigate these times. Do consider checking out my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I teach astrology, I teach tarot. I also have all kinds of astrology calendars and much more. You guys are awesome in helping me be a full-time content creator. I just want to say thank you so much. And I will catch you guys back here on, what is it, Sunday? So I'll see you back here on Tuesday. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will see all of you very soon. Take care.